So you have decided to homeschool. Congratulations on this immensely gratifying and enjoyable journey. No doubt you are thinking about so many things like curriculum, time management, materials and resources, how to get the laundry done, and the dishes. And what about my other kids and my own life too? In the midst of the excitement, thinking about the legalities involved can be a real downside. No doubt there are some legal worries, but never fear. This video addresses the most often asked questions about homeschooling and the law in a way that is clear and above board. And the good news is that homeschooling is legal. It is, however, important that if you live in a state other than Illinois, you should begin by recognizing how some things may be done differently in different states. Here in the Prairie State, and in any state for that matter, the first thing to do is to check the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Innovation and Improvement, State Regulation of Private Schools, Washington, D.C., 2009. After you find it, scroll down until you locate your state. Then look under Private Schools and/or Homeschooling entries. That's how you do it. No mystery, no loopholes or sleepless nights. Easy peasy. Before going into the discussion of the homeschool as a private school, which it is, a look at the history of homeschooling and the Constitution provide both an historical and legal lens by which we can better understand laws and nuances of laws. Wendy Wheeler, 1995, author of Is Homeschooling Constitutional, explains that the reason compulsory school attendance laws were in place is that they, quote, served as a mechanism for enforcement of maintaining minimum educational standards, unquote. Lack of compliance, she points out, implied jail time and/or fines. But while, quote, the parental right to educate one's child is not an explicit individual right, that is one that is written out in plain words in the Constitution, the Supreme Court has found this right to be fundamental, unquote. In Illinois, state regulation is practically zero. Let's talk about what Illinois says about you, the law, and homeschooling. Wheeler adds that because of the Constitution, specifically the 14th Amendment and School Board District versus Thompson, 1996, the Supreme Court ruled that in common law, the principal duties of parents to their children consist of their maintenance, their protection, and their education. While the municipal laws took care to enforce these duties, it was presumed that the natural love and affection implanted by Providence in the breast of every parent had done so more effectively than any law. For this reason, the parent, and especially the father, was vested with supreme control over the child, including its education. Except where modified by statute, that authority still exists as a fundamental right and a right to privacy. It is a good idea to look at policies that apply to private schools because according to Illinois School Code, your homeschool is a kind of private school. Put quite simply, you are required to teach the branches of education that are also taught in the public school: language arts, mathematics, biological and physical science, social studies, that is, fine arts, physical development, and health. How that is done is not mandated by the state of Illinois, nor are texts and materials. You are not required to register or fill out any types of registration forms. You may do so if you would like to, and forms are available at the link provided at the end of this video. Your children are not required to take any standardized tests, but if you want them to, that is your prerogative. And if you do so, you are not required to report any results to the Illinois State Board of Education or any other institution. If you decide to take your child out of a public school to homeschool, simply notify the public school. In a friendly letter, include your intent to homeschool. Failure to take this step may result, however, in the school assuming your child is truant. In the case of opting out of public school, the Illinois State Board of Education homeschooling registration form may be useful, but it is not required because you were never required to register your homeschool in Illinois. However, you might want to include that form filled out with the letter. And again, for opting out of public school, it is not a bad idea to also send copies of both the letter and this form to your regional office of education. In a case of re-enrollment in the public school, know that the school is allowed to administer a test of sorts, which may be used only for placement and assessment purposes. Know, too, that the law requires these evaluations to be reasonable, fair, and appropriate. And the school may ask you for some documentation of what has been covered to date. Your documentation is just that, what you provide, and is something different than the forms or manner of documentation the school may use. That is fine, and you may not be forced to produce anything more than what you can reasonably and in earnest bring forward. Regarding college admission, typically colleges welcome homeschoolers with open arms. They accept summaries of performance that the parents offer. A good rule of thumb, however, is to keep in mind that certain courses of study might be required for acceptance into a particular college. Since you are teaching what the law requires and not necessarily a hard and fast prescribed curriculum, most colleges do not require transcripts of any sort other than what documentation you present as homeschoolers. A school or the Illinois State Board of Education may never require that a homeschool course or course of study be registered or that it was or had been registered. Finally, a homeschooling student may attend public school part-time or for certain courses without enrolling in the school, and when there is space available, as long as registering for the class is timely, usually no later than May 1st for the following school year, and the course or courses must be part of the school's curriculum. Homeschoolers may also take driver's education classes at the public school. For prerequisites, refer to the Illinois State Board of Education policy on homeschooling and enrollment in school-based driver's education classes and/or your local public school where the classes would be taken. In summary, Illinois is a very homeschooling-friendly state. Perhaps this has something to do with our history as a prairie state. Who can know? Its homeschooling laws are not only simple, grassroots, and easy to follow, but they allow for broad and far-reaching approaches to teaching and learning. They allow for creativity, possibility, and a lot of fun. Best to you and your family. Now that you have peace of mind about what Illinois state laws say, you can get on with the beautiful business of homeschooling.